I call this May 2nd work session of the Oconee County Board of Education to order. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Burgess?
Second.
Second, Ms. Parrish, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Next, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Branch.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, board members. Lots of things going on in our school system this spring, as in every spring. We have 14 days remaining in our school year, so a challenging time for staff and students right now as we close out with testing and all the different activities that we have remaining. Want to share a few things that are going on. First, want to congratulate North Oconee and Oconee County High School as being named as the top 6% of schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. Outstanding achievement. I know our high school leaders say this often, that is a K-12 award because it takes many, many years to pour into children to get to where those achievements are. Want to thank the board for coming with us over to OCAF earlier to celebrate our 30 retiring educators. We had a variety of groups represented, from custodians to cafeteria workers to paraprofessionals to teachers to administrators. And we know that our organization is made up of great people, and it was an honor and privilege to be able to celebrate those 30 retiring educators, and many, as I'm sure they share with you, shared how much it meant that the leaders from our system and the Board of Education would share in that moment. So thank you for giving time there. I want to thank you to our teachers. It is our Teacher Appreciation Week, and I know if you've seen around on social media, lots of different things being done at our schools and in our community from various business partners to appreciate our teachers, and we thank them for the great work that they are doing daily. Also, it is Better Speech and Hearing Month. We have 8 speech language pathologists that work in the district. They do outstanding work, and so we want to continue to celebrate those as well. And then we're real pleased, as we were talking earlier, lots of our administrators and all of our schools were able to participate in Relay for Life. Several board members, I saw you there participating as well, and just a great community event to raise lots of money to hopefully one day defeat that horrible disease of cancer. A couple other achievements that have taken place. North Oconee's gymnastics team won the state championship for the 3rd year in a row. I believe Dr. Brown proudly retweeted an article about it being a dynasty. So we want to congratulate those young ladies, and I'm sure we'll be celebrating them later. Another state championship opportunity. Oconee County High School's boys soccer team will play Wednesday night against Greater Atlanta Christian at Keatron High School, and we wish them well as they go forward and try to bring home a state championship. And then just a few of the things that are taking place this week. If you've got some spare time and want to stop by any of our schools, I'm sure I'm missing out on several opportunities here, but just stop by. There's something going on at every single building, I can assure you. But I know we have Final Four tennis, girls tennis at Oconee County High School. Boys, North Oconee Final Four will be playing tennis. Our baseball team at North Oconee's made it to the Sweet 16. Congratulations to them as well. I think just in the last day or so, they were named one of the top 9 teams, top 10. They were number 9 in the nation by Baseball America. So some outstanding activities going on. North Oconee's girls lacrosse is in the Sweet 16, I believe. And then we have track sectionals that are taking place. I believe North Oconee's hosting, and then East Jackson is hosting as well. So I think Dr. Brown's in charge of both of those facilities. So lots of great things going on, and lots of wonderful opportunities to see and celebrate our students for the great things they're doing, not only in the classroom but also outside of the classroom. So that'll conclude the superintendent's report. Although I'm sure I've missed many activities that are taking place and many other honors. But happy to answer any questions if there are.
Next, we have presentations and discussions. First is Teaching and Learning Report, Dr. Susan Stansel.
Good evening. The May 2022 Teaching and Learning Report contains 3 items of information and 1 action item. The first item of information is the Future Educators Signing Day. The annual Oconee High School and North Oconee High School Future Educators Signing Ceremony was held on Friday, April 15th at the Oconee Civic Center. 28 students from both schools signed a commitment to pursue a career in the field of education after they complete their post-secondary coursework. This event is a way to not only recognize these students for their past accomplishments and future goals, but also to promote the profession of education. We are so proud of these students for successfully completing their high school careers and choosing a career path for their future. We know that each and every one of these students will have the opportunity to make a major impact on the lives of others. The second item of information is an update on industry certification. Every Ctae program in our district is industry certified. Programs must go through the recertification process every 5 years. The following programs have successfully completed this process this year. Oconee High School Engineering and Technology with their initial certification. Oconee High School Health Science with their recertification. Oconee High School Marketing with their recertification. Oconee High School Early Childhood Education with their recertification. And North Oconee Health Science went through their recertification. I would also like to commend our Director of Ctae and Federal Programs, Beth Parks, for her continuous work with our schools and programs in this area. The third item of information is the Oconee County All-Star Games. On Friday, April 15th, Oconee County Schools hosted the All-Star Games at North Oconee High School for all students K through 12 served in our adapted curriculum classes. The students were able to participate in different track and field events. This wonderful event was a time for all students to be included and succeed. I would also like to commend our Director of Special Education, Suzanne Korngold, for her work in making events like this possible for our students. There's lots of great pictures of that event for you to take a look at too. The first action item for the May Board of Education meeting is the Ctae Local Plan and Grants. Each year, the OCS Ctae department has the opportunity to apply for federal funding through the Carl D. Perkins Vocational and Technical Education Act and several grants for the purpose of improving our programs. Grant funds must be spent for local programs in compliance with the Perkins Act, the state plan, state rules, and the local plan guidelines. These grants support the continuation and improvement of Ctae activities, initiatives, and programs for our schools. The Ctae director uses this improvement plan, input from the Ctae teachers and advisory committees, and the Perkins requirements to complete the application and determine the activities to be funded for each year. To receive federal and state grant funding, action needs to be taken by the Oconee County Board of Education. The superintendent's recommendation is for the Board of Education to approve the FY23 Ctae local plan at the May 9th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. And that concludes my report unless there are any questions.
Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, if I may, I neglected 2 items of information I wanted to share in the superintendent's report. One is our summer hours for this summer, beginning with the week of June 3rd, ending July 1. We'll go to our 4-day schedule, 10-hour days, 7:30 to 5:30 here, and you can see the document you have before you, and then we'll return to 5 8-hour days beginning the week of July 5th. The other item of information I have that will need to be an action item for our next meeting is the proposed board dates for the next fiscal year beginning in July. And so no significant change there, just a change in dates, but that's the same schedule that we've had this year. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you. Next is operations, Mr. Brock Toole.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. The Oconee County Schools Operation Division May Board of Education report contains 3 items of information and no action items for the May 9th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our March interview report. It shows an onward trend increase in usage over February. But I'd like to point out that Mr. Breidenbach and his maintenance team done a great job and got our lowest March kilowatt hour usage on record. So way to go, maintenance. Our second item of information is our lead custodian meeting. And while we don't have the acrobatics of Fred in this one, we did host it at Oconee Elementary, and it was a great meeting. And I just want to continue to applaud our custodial teams and commend them for the rigorous work they're doing to ensure that our schools are clean for health. And with that being said, I'm going to let Mr. Fred come up and do our third item of information, which is the construction report.
Good evening. If you have a personal garden that you planted and you want it to rain, don't do that. We've actually had some great weather these past few weeks, and they've made tremendous progress on all of our projects. As you can see from the photograph, this is Colin Ferry. They're putting the final coat of paint on this week. The landscaping is in. They've got some work to do to the driveway that they're installing, but things are really buttoning up at Colin Ferry as we go through this month.
Quick question, do all of the classrooms have sinks?
They do.
Nice.
Fred, on Colin Ferry, will we have to get an additional CO to take over and operate that, or is that considered part of the original CO we got from the existing school?
It's going to depend on our local authority, but in my experience, usually they'll amend the current CO to include that space. Okay, High Shoals. So High Shoals, it's really something to see. They've got so many people working on that project. I actually went over there on Tuesday during the testing, and it was. I got out of the truck and I saw all these people working. And I said, something's off, something's weird. And what it was, they were all working silently during the testing, and but they're really making tremendous progress. And there's not a minute to lose, but they're really doing well over there. And as you can see, the block walls are installed. And this picture was taken Friday, even today. There's some momentous change between Friday and today. The bricks are finished this week, and they're doing well. Dove Creek, so nice to see some concrete coming out of the ground. We're finally getting the hard surface to work from. They've moved a tremendous amount of dirt, and they're doing really well. It's been a real challenge to get out of the mud, but the great weather has been really great for us, and we're doing well out there. So it's nice to see concrete and steel coming out of the ground. Oconee Primary and Oconee Elementary, we've started routine project meetings to be prepared so we can hit the ground running on May 25th. Working with the principals now, packing everything up. And Ron's been a big help because he's got back a lot of technology as well. And it's going to be a tight schedule, and we're prepared for it and ready to go. Finally, North Oconee Heating Facility. The last thing, we are complete with the exception of a door and air conditioning. And both items are on order. Air conditioning should come any day now, and the door should be here any day now, and that project will be finished.
Is this an addition to the existing facility? Is it?
What you see in the picture is the addition. So,
Okay, so that's on the right side of that picture is the outside wall of the existing facility,
Yes, sir.
right?
Any other? Oh, in North Oconee Field Lighting, they've reworked all the lighting at baseball, and we're in the process of planning for reworking the lighting and wiring for the other facilities. Any other questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to hop back up here. We did have one action item. I apologize, y'all. It was a surplus bus for the May 9th board meeting. Any questions?
Only 278,000 miles.
Only 278, yes. A lot of short miles in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Student Services, Dr. Dallas Duff.
Good evening, everyone.
The Student Services Report contains 3 items of information and 2 action items for the May 9th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our COVID-19 update. We continue our communication with the Department of Public Health, as well as monitoring the local numbers that the Department of Public Health is reporting. So the rolling average in Oconee County as of this past Wednesday, when they reported last, was 1.6. The vaccine rate is 67% of the population with 1 dose, 64% with 2 doses, and 31% with 3 doses. The 5 to 9 age range with at least 1 dose is 23.2%, 10 to 14 is 38.9%, and 15 to 19 is 60.2%. The second item of information is our school nutrition participation. Happy to report that overall our breakfast is up 3.4% compared to last April, or April of last year, and lunch is up 7.8%. The third item of information is our graduation date and times. We are getting more and more excited by the day to celebrate our seniors this year at Ctae Coliseum. We'll have North Oconee High School's ceremony at May 21st at 3 p.m. and Oconee County High School will follow that at 7 p.m. and that's previously been communicated in January, if you would recall, for the first time when we confirmed those dates and times with Ctae. The first action item is a field trip. Oconee County High School and North Oconee High School have an FBLA trip planned June 28th through July 3rd to Chicago, Illinois. And the second item of information is a dish machine replacement at Oconee County Primary School. We had proposals that were due back on Friday, April 29th at 1:30. The superintendent's recommendation is to approve Citisco for a price of $58,540.58 to replace that dish machine at Oconee County Primary School. And that concludes the student services report, unless there's any questions.
Else, for graduation, are we going to issue tickets like we have in past years for that, or is it just people can show up and come in the Coliseum?
That's correct. People can just show up and come in for the
So
cost.
there'll be no limit for tickets or
No, sir.
the number of people that can come.
No, sir.
Is anybody else using the Coliseum that morning?
The University of Georgia Law School, I believe, has their
So they're
ceremony.
having their graduation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know what time their graduation is scheduled to be completed?
I don't know for certain, but I feel like they told us by noon that they feel like they would be wrapping it up and getting out of there.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have communications, Ms. Anissa Jimenez.
Thank you and good evening. The Communications Board Report contains 3 items of information. The first is our second annual e-cards project. We launched this right as we returned from spring break, and this opportunity will remain available until the last day of the school year. So anyone can send a free e-card to any school system employee, and I checked right before we got in here, and we've already had over 400 of those sent. And so this is a great annual project. Next, I wanted to share information about our Meet Me Monday videos. And so these have been premiering every single Monday that school's open for this entire school year. And we have shared 29 of these so far and have had over 50,000 total views. We promote these on the website, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I wanted to show one of them to you this evening that is on a kindergartner at Rocky Branch Elementary School, Molly Joy Simmons. And I say her middle name because you will see in this video she truly exudes joy.
Hello, my name is Molly Simmons, and I am in kindergarten at Rocky Branch. My teachers are Miss Kimberly, Miss Maggie, and Miss Lee. My teachers are so great because they are loving, caring, and joyful. We have so much fun together. My favorite subject in school is math because I love learning about numbers. I was nervous coming into school because I didn't know what it would be like, but I got 2 older sisters, Noah and Lily, who are already at Rocky Branch, and they loved it so much I thought I would love it too. I love eating the same school with them because I can see them in the hallway and give them hugs. Rocky Bench always feels like one big family. The teachers care about us so much and teach us the rocket's way.
She's delightful.
She was absolutely precious. And so these videos have featured students of every age, employees from teachers to support staff members. We've been able to show speech language pathologists, so to really let people meet us and get to hear personal, professional, and educational stories from a number of individuals. So I just wanted to update you on that project as well. And then finally, we have our monthly highlights video. What a month, and that was just a snippet of the great work happening in our schools each and every day. And that concludes my report unless there are any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have business services. Ms. Liz Harlow.
Board members, Business Services has one action item for the May 9th regular board meeting. I'd like to start out by giving an overview of our FY23 budget development calendar. Back in February, the division budgets were requested and due to business services. During March, we sent out staffing allotments to our principals as well as their per pupil allotments, and we had our cabinet review and revision of budget requests. Today, we are presenting the tentative budget to the board with the expectation that on May 9th, we will adopt the tentative budget. On May 12th, we anticipate publishing the budgeted advertisement in the Oconee Enterprise. And on May 18th and May 25th, we will have our budget hearings. June 6th, we'll have the review and adoption of the final budget and adoption of the tentative millage rate. On July 7th, we will publish the 5-year tax digest in the Oconee Enterprise. On July 18th, we will have our tax digest update. On August 1st, we will have our final adoption of the millage rate. On August 2nd, we will notify the OCC chairman of the millage rate adoption. And then on August 31st and September 30th, we will submit the budget to the Carl Vinson Institute and to the Georgia Department of Education. And so these dates, you can see that they are tentative and will be based on when we receive the update of the tax digest. So this is a look at our FY23 tentative budget that will be placed for your consideration at the May 9th regular session. As we go through this, please continue to look at it, and if there are any adjustments that the board desires, I will work with the superintendent to make these. Total available revenue for the FY23 tentative budget is $122.6 million. 40% is state revenue of $48.5 million, and 60% is local revenue of $74.1 million. The local sources consist of local revenue of $43.4 million and a beginning fund balance of $30.7 million. The local revenue for the tentative budget is $43.4 million, which is 47% of total revenue. Ad valorem tax is $40.3 million, or 93% of the local revenue. This is an increase of $1.1 million over the FY22 budget. The estimate is based on a 7.43% tax digest growth and a reduction of 0.25 mils from FY22. This also represents a 2.5% collection fee and an adjustment for the Caterpillar tax abatement. We have other local taxes of $2.5 million, and they make up 6% of the local revenue. These taxes are real estate transfer and intangible taxes and title ad valorem taxes. And then there is $600,000, or 1% of other local sources, and these are Medicaid reimbursements we get for services provided to children, facility rentals, and some interest earnings as well. State revenues for the tentative budget are $48.5 million, or 53% of total revenue. The primary source is QBE funds of $47.2 million, which is 97% of the state revenues. I would like to note that the final FY23 state budget and the final FY22 amended budget did include the restoration of the austerity cuts, which was approximately $1.9 million, and so state funding has been fully restored. I would like to thank our local and state leaders for approving to fully fund local school districts. We will also receive $900,000, or 2% of the state funding that goes towards our nursing and transportation programs. And then we will also receive almost $352,000 for our career, tech, and ag programs. This is the history of the tax digest. We have had a steady growth since tax year 2014, and the FY23 budget is built on the tax digest value of $2.623 billion, which is 7.43% over last year. And here you have the history of fund balance. The fund balance helps to manage growth needs and any unforeseen circumstances of the school system. The healthy fund balance does demonstrate a good fiscal responsibility by the board and the superintendent. The FY23 tentative budget has total expenditures of $90.2 million. 91%, or $82 million of the budget is allocated for salaries and benefits for all personnel. 9%, or nearly $8 million, is allocated for operations of the school system to pay for things such as diesel, utilities, internet access, instructional resources, and other similar needs. The tentative budget does have 19 new positions for growth. We have 2 special education teachers, 13 regular education teachers, 3 regular education paraprofessionals, and 1 payroll specialist. I want to thank the board for their continued support in allowing us to allocate and hire these new positions ahead of a final approval of the budget. Included in the FY23 tentative budget are pay raises with a total cost of approximately $2.3 million. This includes a $2,000 salary increase to certified employees, which is about a 3% increase for our average teacher. Therefore, we also recommend a 3% salary increase for classified employees. This next slide shows a history of pay raises for the school district for the last 10 years, including what has been proposed for FY23. $78% or $70 million of the tentative budget is geared towards instruction of students. A small amount of $20.1 million or 22% remains for support services. This is for the administration of our schools, hiring of our employees, upkeep of our buildings and grounds, and transportation of our students and other support services. This is a breakdown of the expenditures that are directed towards instruction of our students. 72% or $64.8 million of the tentative budget is for instruction. This is direct instruction in the classroom. These are your teachers, your paraprofessionals, and any kind of instructional resources that are used in the classroom. $2.8 million or 3.1% is for pupil services. This is our nurses, social workers, and psychologists. Another $1.3 million or 1.4% is for improvement of instruction, and this includes professional development for our teachers and curriculum development. And you have $1.1 million or 1.3% that is for educational media, and this is for our media centers for all of our 11 schools. Here you have a look at the FY23 tentative expenditures compared to FY22. The FY23 tentative budget includes 19 growth positions for a total of $1.6 million, salary improvements for certified employees for $1.8 million, salary improvements for classified employees for $465,000, eligible step increases for employees for $800,000. There was a slight increase in the TRS rate for FY23. It's going from 19.81 to 19.98% this coming year, and that amounts to a total of $90,000. And it also, the tentative budget also includes an increase to substitute teacher pay. This is an increase of $20 per day. So regular subs will go from $60 to $80 per day, and certified subs will go from $80 to $100 per day. Currently, the millage rate is at 16.5 mils. The FY23 budget proposes a decrease of 0.25 mils, to bring the rate to 16.25 mils. The FY23 tentative budget has an estimated beginning fund balance of $30.7 million, revenues of $91.9 million, expenditures of $90.2 million. Also, the tentative budget summary includes unencumbered expenditures of $7.1 million, and this is a set aside for the opening of Dove Creek Middle School, future construction projects, and a set aside for future debt payments. And this brings our ending fund balance to $25.3 million. Some future considerations include our student growth. Our student population continues to grow. For capital outlay, our summer projects will be beginning soon, and general funds will be needed to assist our capital outlay program. The local tax digest has experienced a steady growth over the past few years. State funding, the governor has restored our austerity cuts, but we continue to monitor any changes in the formula. Our TRS employer rates did increase a little bit for next year, and we continue to monitor health insurance rates. We look to see if this continues at the same rate, and it has remained stable over the last several years. So at this point, this concludes the presentation on the tentative general fund budget, unless there are any questions before I move on to the summaries.
Any questions? Mr. Burgess?
good presentation of this. And you've done a good job with a lot of issues to put together a sound budget, so congratulations on that. I want to ask you several questions about a couple of things you mentioned. You mentioned the 2.5% offset for local 2.5% offset to the county against revenue for their collection of the school taxes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know approximately how much that will be for fiscal '23?
It'll be over $1 million, a little bit over $1 million.
Okay, so that and you've already offset again. You've already taken that out of consideration for the revenue you're showing for us.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
And that's $1 million that is assessed by the board for the collection of taxes for the operations of the school that the county keeps before we ever collect anything for their expenses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You mentioned QBE. This is the first year, in a number of years that the state's actually fully funded the QBE formula with no austerity reduction, correct?
That's correct.
I won't ask you today how long it's been, but can you look back and see how long it's been since that formula was fully funded?
I will look back. There were a couple of years prior to COVID
Yes.
that we were fully funded, but it was only a couple
I guess
of
my
years.
question would be, how long have we been, two questions. One, how long has that been? How long is it, and in this budget, how much additional revenue are we being able to account for and include in this budget because the formula is being fully funded?
It's $1.9 million.
Okay. So there's an additional 1.9 million for fiscal '23,
Yes.
and we got it this year too, that we didn't have last year because of the increased funding for formula that the state's provided, right?
That's correct.
The 2.3 million for the two pay raise components,
Yes, sir.
the $2,000 for certified employees and 3% for non-certified. Of that 2.3, how much is actually being funded by the state, and how much are we, the county, having to put forward towards that to make that happen?
So for certified employees, the local cost is approximately $500,000.
Okay.
For classified employees, I estimate that to be between $25,000–$30,000 that will be funded.
Oh, you mean that will be funded by the state?
Yes,
And the total cost for that component is
it is
$465 or something?
$465,000.
So $900 to $1 million in pay raise expenses that are included for our employees in the school system in this budget that are being paid for by the local budget, not the state budget, correct?
That's correct.
In order to provide the equity that we all believe is appropriate and necessary.
That's correct.
Okay. And one last question. You pointed to you referenced a figure up here I hadn't seen before, 7.1 million in unencumbered fund balance.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a list next week of what all is in that? Because we've talked about that a couple of different times, and I know that we're accounting for things like the opening of Dove Creek and some other things. So, but that's a little bit different number than I've seen before. And I know you got all the details. So can you bring us next week the list of what's in that accounting for in that 7.1?
Yes, sir.
And that's net of then the balance that falls to the bottom of 25 million or so in totally unencumbered fund balance after that 7.1, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just for the record, that's a very good thing to do. Thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you doing it. And it's just another step in making sure that we're not only looking forward down the road for expenses, but reserving for them in our financial planning to ensure that we've accounted for that. So, good step. Thank you. Oh, one last question. The millage rate. This budget is predicated on dropping the millage rate by quarter to 16.25 from 16.5, right?
That's right.
Do you know how long it's been since the millage rate for the school system was that low?
believe the last time overall it was that low was 2030.
Okay. The chart we've talked about in the past shows in 2003, the rate was 16.3. Can you, in your spare time, look back and see how long before that it was actually at 16.25 or below? Because it may have, I guess what I'm wondering is, was it at 16.3 for several years, and it might have been 2001 or 2000 when it was actually at or below 16.25?
I will look into that for you.
Very good, thank you. Now I'm finished.
Okay, so here is our tentative budget summary for the general fund, which we just went over in detail. And next, this is a summary of the FY23 tentative budget for federal funds. Board members, as you know, we are allocated federal funding that is passed through the Georgia Department of Education, and these are restricted for the purposes of each grant. And so I ask that the superintendent recommend the approval of the FY23 tentative budget at the May 19th regular board meeting. And this concludes my report unless there are any additional questions.
I do see on this form that it lists the estimated amount we spend per student, and I don't think we discussed that. And it is $8,579, is that correct? Or is it the $10,702?
It's the $10,511.
I see it, that's it. Okay, and that's kind of middle of the road for our RESA district. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
will you indulge me for one last question?
yes, I guess I will.
Thank you. We've talked a lot in the last year or so about the issue of hiring and retaining school bus drivers. It's a perennial issue that the superintendent has talked to us many, many times about. We tried to address it. We've done some different things. Obviously, it continues to be an issue for us, and as we understand school systems around the state as well. In addition to the pay raises that you've outlined, am I correct that there's also an additional adjustment in the hourly rate that we're going to pay the school bus drivers included in sort of this base budget that we're considering?
I'm not sure.
Okay, let me tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Jason, you can correct me if I'm
Yes.
wrong. As it stands today, our practice has been we pay school bus drivers one hourly rate for the regular routes they run, and then we pay a separate route for them when they drive
Yes.
our students after hours for all the
Yes.
events,
Field trips.
field trips, athletic events, whatever. Am I correct that this budget also includes an adjustment that would then begin to pay that same hourly rate for the bus drivers for both of those activities?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank
As long as that's okay with Mr. Peters.
you. Oh, he's very happy.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a need to go into executive session and need a motion to do so.
I make a motion that the board will adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate on personnel matters as described on the affidavit to be attached to the minutes.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ransom, all in favor? Passes 5-0.